Today I'll be making sous vide surf and turf two ways. One way from scratch and one way cheater easy way. What you're going to need is a Instapot with a sous vide function or a sous vide machine, a couple of New York strip or whatever steak you prefer, a couple of little lobster tails, a shrink wrap machine plus bags, or you could just use freezer bags. These steaks are pretty big, so I'm going to use a gallon. I'm going to use the shrink wrap bags, but I'll show you how to use a Ziploc if that's all you have. For the from scratch way, you also need garlic, rosemary, oregano, salt, pepper, some celery salt, some smoked paprika, butter, and lemon. For the quick and easy way, you'll need a porterhouse roast seasoning or a ribeye steak seasoning, some buttery steakhouse seasoning, and some no salt lemon pepper. I do plan on making a pan sauce after, so I'll also need some beef broth, some butter, some heavy cream, a shallot, and some smoked black pepper, freshly cracked. I also bought a bottle of my favorite wine to go with this. If you haven't had this one, I highly recommend it if you like a Cabernet. The whole point of this video is the ingredients cost me just under $30, and the wine, I'm sorry, $35, and the wine was $30. This is including 3 sides and a dessert. A similar meal at a restaurant would cost at least $140 at a typical restaurant. I'm making everything for $65, and there's going to be leftover. The reason I'm trying the sous vide, I usually do the lobster in the oven or on the barbecue, but then I realized that the sous vide temp is almost the same. I like my steaks medium rare, and I usually sous vide them at 132. Lobster's done at 135, so I'm thinking the steaks will be maybe a full medium, but I'm okay with that. I don't like them bloody. I like them closer to medium than rare. Personal preference. These steaks are thawed, so they're going to take about 3 hours. You can do them from frozen if you pre-season them, and they take about 4 hours. If your lobster tails are frozen, you're going to want to either thaw them out in the refrigerator slowly overnight, or thaw them out in ice water for about a half hour. You don't want to put them in warm water, and you'll need to drain them very well. So like I said, the steak's going to take about 3 hours. The lobster's going to take about 45 minutes to an hour. So I'll prepare the steaks first, and then get them going, and then prepare the lobsters. First I'll show you the technique for using a Ziploc though, before my water gets too hot. So if you don't have a vacuum seal machine, you would take your steak, lobster tail, whatever you're planning on sous vide, and place it in the Ziploc. And you're going to want to seal it, except for the very end I like to use a straw. It's not mandatory, I just like to. And this steak's obviously not seasoned. You want it seasoned. And then you're just going to put it in the water and shove it down. And the displacement of the water, hopefully you can see, will push out all the air for you. And then once you get it to the very end, you just seal it up. So as you can see, this is nice and sealed now. There's hardly any air in there. So I'll be doing the steaks the from scratch way and the easy way. I like to have plastic on my cutting board as much as possible. It's easier to clean. I could throw this in the dishwasher, and you know, my cutting board doesn't get chewed up. Otherwise I have to sand it and re-oil it every year. I trimmed the steaks. I like to trim them pretty lean, especially for sous vide, because the fat isn't going to really render. And I prefer to wear gloves. Beef fat and stuff, you have to use really hot water to wash it off. I'd recommend gloves, especially because I'm going to be working with seafood. I'm going to be changing them in between, but first of all, I'm allergic to lobster, and if I touch it, my hands swell up and turn red and they itch like crazy. But who wants to walk around with fish hands? Whenever I work with meat, especially different meats, I keep a bowl with a little bit of bleach and a little bit of soapy water in there to sanitize my cutting board after each use. So you also want to try to keep one hand clean and one hand dirty. You know, if you're going to be handling containers or whatever. So I'm going to liberally salt the steak. You don't want to salt it as much as you normally would, because the salt's not going to drip off. It's not going to go anywhere. But you hit it with salt, pepper, celery salt. Celery salt's optional. The rubs tend to have it in. It adds something. I think it might tenderize also. And I like to put just a little bit of smoked paprika. Kind of pat it in. Gives it more. I'm going to be pan frying these. Or one's going to pan fry and one I'm going to probably hit with a torch. So this gives it the smoky barbecue flavor I like. I took the garlic out of the head. One, the skin fell right off, and the other one I have to skin. I like to cut this part off. It could taste a little bitter. And if you see anything growing on your clove, cut that off too. And then to easily remove the skin, you just kind of crush it, and the skin comes right off. This also releases the oils, and I'm going to give it a nicer smash. And then we'll smash up this one. It's kind of tricky with the camera here. Oop, almost forgot. We also have a little oregano. You don't want to go heavy with the oregano, or it'll also make your food taste bitter. So put the garlic back, kind of spread it out, and then put on some rosemary, kind of break it up. This is fresh rosemary that I dried. I grew it out in the garden. And then you're going to want to put on a couple pads of butter. This one's a little thick. There. So that's going to go into the vacuum seal bag as is. Let me clean up my hands a little bit. Now we'll do the other one. And again, this is like gonna have a similar taste profile. It's just a lot easier. So a little smoked paprika. Good porterhouse seasoning. All of these seasonings have salt, so keep that in mind. I don't have problems with salt, and I like my meat and potatoes to be pretty salty, so I'm making it for my taste. And then some buttery steakhouse. This one you could go a little more liberal with. So these two seasonings have all the same seasonings plus a few others that are here. A lot quicker, and you know, once you own it, you own it. You don't have to keep buying it. You don't have to worry about it going bad. So I'm going to put these in the vacuum seal. The water isn't at temp yet, it's still warming up, and I'll show you what they look like once they're all sealed up. They're all sealed up and off to the water bath for 3 hours. Now I'll work on the lobster. Okay, I have the steaks in the Instant Pot set on sous vide, and a timer set for 3 hours. So now I'm going to prepare the lobster. What you're going to need is a pair of shears or a sharp knife, or a little knife like this. Something dull to help separate the meat. For the one from scratch, you're going to need salt, pepper, lemon, garlic, and some smoked paprika. And for the other, you're going to want some lemon pepper. No salt, lemon pepper. And since we're using this on the steak, we're going to try the buttery steakhouse seasoning. For both, you're going to want about a tablespoon of butter. And first step is to clean them. Get rid of all these little legs. And you may or may not want to remove some of the spines because they're going into a sous vide bag. But my bags are pretty tough, so I'm going to avoid that. I'm just going to put them in as is. But if you want, you could just clip them off. They come off easy. And again, you could just clip off these legs. But I think I'm just gonna rip them off. It's a little faster. Again, I'm wearing gloves because I'm allergic, but I recommend gloves either way because of the smell. So what you're going to want to do is cut it down the middle. You can gently slide your knife in and then kind of turn it, flip it over, press down on the cutting board, but I have shears, so I'm going to use them. And then you're going to want to give it a squeeze from the side and kind of open these guys up. And at this point, You're gonna want to separate the meat. And then get your fingers in there, lift it out, and I didn't get any shell, but you do want to be careful about having shell. You could give it a rinse, but I think we're okay. So I'm going to take some of the butter and just shove it under there. And this is salted butter. And then I need to wash my hands real quick because they're both dirty. I just swap out the gloves. So give it just a light dusting of the smoked paprika. It was too much. Place the garlic on. Give it a little squeeze of lemon. And then return the meat to the shell. And then top it with butter. Kind of just shove it in there. So that one's done. And these slices, when I put the lobster into the bag, I'm going to fan out the tail. And I'm going to just have this, the lemon resting on it inside the bag. So let's clean this one. This one is a lot more spiny than that other one, so I'm going to cut these spines off. It takes the guesswork off my plate. Dinner's ready and it's first rate. These legs are also kind of easy to rip off sometimes. Nah. Too slippery. I'm not really cutting them, I'm just using the knife as leverage. I missed one spine. I'll just trim it off. Again, we're gonna slide it in, twist and cut. You're also going to, these lobsters are cleaned already, but now's a good time to check to see if they have a dark line. If they do, you can take something like a chopstick and you find their, you make a little hole and just kind of shove it out. So again, open up the shell, separate the meat. I use a spoon on this one, just to kind of scoop it sideways. Sous Vide, my darling, you do the deed. Cooking perfection is guaranteed. No fuss, no muss, it's quite the treat. And this one does have a little bit of shell, so I'm going to give it a quick rinse. Make sure to drain it really well. Lift up the meat. And let me wash my hands off again. So, smoked paprika, lemon pepper, buttery steakhouse seasoning. On the first one, I forgot the salt and pepper, so I'll just put it on top of the garlic, the butter. And then, just like the first one, some of the butter goes underneath. Make sure we get it in there good. Return the meat. And then spread the butter over the top. So I have the lobster sealed up, and I'm just waiting for the steaks. The steaks have been in there 2 hours, so there's just under an hour to go. So I'm gonna add the lobster now. And because this machine doesn't circulate the water, I'm gonna rotate them just to get some even cooking. So I'm gonna add the lobster, make sure it's fully submerged. And I was thinking, since we're doing a sous vide video, why not chuck in some corn on the cob while we're at it. I'll come back in a half hour and flip those and flip the lobster. You could definitely sous vide corn on the cob. You just add your salt, butter, whatever seasonings you like, and vacuum seal them. But I was going to boil this corn anyway to cook it. I wasn't going to grill it like I normally do on the barbecue. So let's see what happens here. Once I make the steak, I plan on making a pan sauce to go over the steak and over the potatoes. So here I have 2 tablespoons of softened butter that I'll be using to brown the steak, along with 1 tablespoon of olive oil, half a shallot diced fine. This is about 2 tablespoons. 2 teaspoons of coarsely ground black pepper, half a teaspoon of salt, 1 clove of garlic microplaned, and half a cup of heavy cream, along with 3/4 of a cup of beef broth. Okay, I got my steaks out of the sous vide. I dried them really well. I got my ingredients for the pan sauce, and I got a wooden spoon for deglazing the pan sauce. And to flip the steak, you could either use tongs, like a nice fork. Someone bugs you while you're cooking, you could give them one of these. Not hard enough to break the skin, you just and then they usually leave you alone. With tongs, they just kind of laugh at you. So I'm gonna get my skillet hot. I already have the olive oil in there, and then we'll add the butter. I did remove the rosemary and garlic from the steak that had the rosemary and garlic because I plan on making a pan sauce. Otherwise, I would just kind of leave it along the edge here, and it adds extra flavor. But get the butter and the olive oil nice and melted, and you want to get your pan really hot. As you can see, the butter is starting to brown. This should be plenty hot now, so we'll put the first steak, and we're gonna do 30 seconds to a minute on each side. Okay, that was 1 minute. It could use a little more color. The pan's still kind of heating up. So I'm gonna do 90 seconds and then flip it for another 30. Okay, then 90 seconds. Let's have a look. Oh yeah, that's looking great. So another 30 seconds on this side. And we'll go on to the other steak. Okay. It's been 30 seconds, so 3 minutes total. That's looking really good. I'm gonna call this one done. Move on to the next steak. Okay, so it's been about 90 seconds on each side. Let's have a look. Oh yeah, that's looking nice too. So we'll lower the heat, take it off, and we'll get started on that pan sauce. So, right away you're just going to add the shallots. Give them a stir. They're cut small so they won't take very long. You can add the salt and pepper now. It's been a minute and the shallots are looking about ready. I just turned the heat off. I'm gonna add my clove of garlic. Let this cook for about 30 seconds. And then I'm gonna add my cream and beef broth mixture. And we're going to cook this down a little bit. We're going to turn the heat back on. So I poured in the resting juice that came out of the steaks while I was waiting for this to reduce. So it's been a little bit over 5 minutes. But as you can see, it's starting to thicken. And it's getting a real nice color. Another way to test is it's not just super runny. It's kind of coating the spoon here. So this is just about done. I'm going to turn the heat off and then let it just cool in the pan. But I'm going to continue to stir it because the pan is pretty hot. I don't want it to burn. But this is going to taste great over that meat and over those potatoes. Every time I do this, I test it for seasoning, and it's perfect. So the lobster is tender and sweet, but I gotta be honest, it does look better when I cook it in the oven. It looks a little beat up in the sous vide, probably from going in and out of the shell. The corn was 90% cooked that way. It did need exactly 1 minute on boiling, but I was blanching the beans anyway. So just gonna add a little bit of my pan sauce to the meat and to the potatoes. And dinner is served. It does the work, but you take the spotlight. The secret's simple, the taste sublime. A cooking method that transcends time.